The door slammed behind me that night. The sound echoed through the empty hallway, but the silence that followed was deafening. Standing there, keys in hand, I realized something profound about human nature. We often mistake familiarity for destiny. That's what brings so many of us here today, isn't it? That magnetic pull toward what we once had, that voice whispering, maybe this time it'll be different. Let me tell you why that voice, as seductive as it may be, is leading you down a path of spiritual quicksand. Every step you take back toward an ex-partner pulls you deeper into a pattern that dims your inner light and distances you from your true purpose. You see, relationships that end aren't failures, they're completions. Just like a book that reaches its final chapter, just like a season that gives way to the next. But we've been conditioned to view endings as incomplete stories, as unfinished symphonies that need one more movement. This conditioning runs so deep that we often can't distinguish between love and attachment, between growth and guilt, between genuine connection and the fear of being alone. Think about the last time you considered going back, or perhaps you're contemplating it right now. That familiar ache in your chest, that montage of memories playing in your mind, the good times that seem to shine brighter with each passing day, while the painful moments fade like old photographs left in the sun. This selective memory isn't serving your highest good. It's a form of emotional amnesia that makes us forget why we left in the first place. There's a fundamental truth about human relationships that many of us struggle to accept. Not everyone who touches our life is meant to hold a permanent place in it. Some people are like spiritual sandpaper. They come into our lives to smooth our rough edges, to teach us lessons about ourselves, to help us grow. But once that growth is complete, holding on becomes an act of resistance against the natural flow of life. Consider the mighty oak tree. When autumn comes, it doesn't desperately cling to its leaves. It doesn't try to tape them back on when they fall. It understands at some deep cellular level that letting go is essential for new growth. Yet here we are, intelligent, conscious beings, often behaving like we know better than nature itself. The universe operates on a principle of continuous expansion. Everything in existence is either growing or dying. There is no static state. When we go back to an ex, we're essentially trying to recreate a moment in time that no longer exists. We're attempting to pour new wine into old bottles, expecting different results from the same ingredients. What we often fail to realize is that the person we're going back to isn't the same person we left, and neither are we. The very act of separation changes us. The space between the ending and the potential reconnection is filled with experiences, revelations, and growth, or at least it should be. When we rush back into old patterns, we deny ourselves the transformative power of that space. Let's talk about what really happens when you go back. You might feel a surge of excitement, a rush of familiar comfort. Your body remembers the hugs, your heart recalls the connection, your mind replays the good times like a greatest hits album. But beneath that surface level comfort lies a deeper truth. You're choosing the known pain. The energy it takes to resurrect a completed relationship is energy that could be invested in your personal growth, in healing, in preparing yourself for something authentically new. Every moment spent trying to breathe life into what has naturally concluded is a moment stolen from your future self. Think about a time when you witnessed someone else go back to an ex. From the outside, the pattern was probably clear as day. You could see the cycle, the inevitable progression from hope to hurt. You might have even wanted to shake them, to wake them up to what was so obvious from your vantage point. Now turn that same clarity toward your own situation. The truth is, going back to an ex is often a form of spiritual procrastination. It's a way of avoiding the real work of self-discovery and growth. It's choosing the familiar discomfort over the unfamiliar opportunity for joy. It's like trying to force a key into a lock that's been changed. The more you push, the more damage you do to both the key and the lock. When we dig deeper into this pattern, we find that the urge to return often has little to do with the person we're returning to. It's about our relationship with uncertainty, with our own worth, with our capacity to be alone. It's about the stories we tell ourselves about love, about second chances, about what we deserve. Some of you might be sitting there thinking, but my situation is different. We've both changed. We've both grown. And you're right. You have changed. That's precisely why going back contradicts the very growth you've achieved. The growth you've experienced isn't meant to make you a better version of who you were in that relationship. It's meant to prepare you for what lies ahead. The comfort of returning to an ex is often a mask for fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of being truly seen by someone new. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of having to explain ourselves, our quirks, our histories to another person. But consider this. That fear is actually a compass pointing toward your next level of growth. The relationship ended for a reason. Actually, probably ended for several reasons, some obvious and others subtle. Like a garden that stops flowering, the end wasn't sudden. It was the culmination of many small moments, choices, and realizations. Going back is like trying to plant flowers in soil. That's already shown. It can't sustain them. What makes us believe things will be different this time? Often, it's a combination of hope and selective memory. We remember the potential we once saw in the relationship. Forgetting that potential without growth is just another word for disappointment. We remember the promises of change, forgetting that real transformation happens in the doing, not in the saying. There's a particular kind of wisdom that comes from standing in your own truth, even when that truth feels lonely. It's the wisdom of knowing that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. It's the understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to keep walking forward. Consider the metaphor of a chapter in a book. When you finish a chapter, you don't keep rereading it, hoping the words will somehow rearrange themselves into a different ending. You turn the page. You move forward into the next chapter, carrying the lessons, but leaving the story where it belongs. In the past, the energy of going backward is heavy. It's like swimming against the current, exhausting yourself trying to reach a shore you've already left. Meanwhile, the universe is trying to carry you toward new experiences, new growth, new connections. Every moment you spend looking back is a moment you're not fully present for what's trying to enter your life. Many of us were taught that love means never giving up, that persistence always pays off, that if you love someone enough, everything will work out. These are beautiful sentiments, but they're incomplete truths. Sometimes love means having the courage to let go. Sometimes wisdom means recognizing that not everything that can be fixed should be fixed. Think about your favorite piece of clothing that you've outgrown. You might look at it fondly, remembering the times you wore it, how it made you feel, but trying to squeeze back into it wouldn't serve you now. It would only restrict your movement, make you uncomfortable, and perhaps even tear at the seams. Relationships we've outgrown work the same way. There's also the matter of energy. Not just your physical energy, but your spiritual and emotional energy. Every relationship creates an energetic bond, a kind of invisible cord connecting two people. When you keep going back, you're not just reopening old wounds. You're reinforcing old energetic patterns that may no longer align with who you're becoming. The universe has an incredible way of filling empty spaces, but only if we allow them to exist. When we rush to fill the void left by a relationship with the same relationship, we're effectively telling the universe we're not ready for what's next. We're choosing the comfort of the known over the possibility of something better aligned with our growth. Let's talk about what it really means to be ready for something new. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to stand in your own truth, to face the unknown with courage rather than retreating to the familiar comfort of what was. It's about trusting that you deserve more than recycled promises and reheated love. The path forward isn't always clear, and that's okay. Clarity comes from movement, not from standing still. Every step you take away from the temptation to go back is a step toward your authentic future. Every time you choose yourself over the familiar comfort of an ex, you're building trust with your own. When we talk about going back to an ex, we're really talking about faith, not religious faith, but faith in the natural order of things, faith in your own journey, faith in the wisdom of timing. Every ending creates space for a beginning, but only if we have the courage to keep that space open long enough for something new to enter. There's something powerful about the moment when you truly accept that what has ended is truly over. It's like taking a deep breath after being underwater. Suddenly, everything becomes clearer. The colors are brighter. The air is sweeter. The world expands beyond the narrow focus of what was lost to what could be gained. Most of us have been taught to view love through the lens of scarcity. We act as if there's a finite amount of love in the world, and if we let go of what we had, we might never find it again. But love doesn't work that way. Love is abundant. It's infinite. It's ever-expanding. The love you're capable of giving and receiving grows stronger with every lesson learned, with every heartbreak survived, with every moment you choose self-respect over familiar comfort. Think about how much energy you spend thinking about your ex. The mental rehearsals of conversations that might happen, the analysis of what went wrong, the fantasies about what could be different this time. Now imagine channeling all that energy into your own growth, your own dreams, your own path forward. The transformation would be extraordinary. There's a particular kind of peace that comes from accepting that not everything is meant to be fixed. Some things are meant to be released, learned from, honored for what they were, and then let go. This isn't giving up. It's recognizing that your energy is precious and deserves to be invested in what lies ahead, not in trying to resurrect what lies behind. When you go back to an ex, you're not just returning to a person, you're returning to an old version of yourself. You're stepping back into patterns that your soul has already outgrown. It's like trying to wear clothes from your teenage years. Even if you could squeeze into them, they wouldn't reflect who you are now. Consider the message you send to the universe when you keep returning to what has ended. You're essentially saying, I don't trust that there's something better for me. I don't believe in my own worth enough to wait for what I truly deserve. Is that really the energy you want to put out into the world? The journey of moving forward requires us to face one of our deepest fears, the fear of being truly alone. But here's the truth about being alone. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. It's the universe creating space in your life for something authentic, something aligned with who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Many of us go back because we believe the devil we know is better than the devil we don't. But that kind of thinking assumes that what lies ahead is also a devil. What if, instead, what lies ahead is an angel? What if by clinging to the familiar pain of an old relationship, we're blocking our blessings, preventing our miracles, delaying our true destiny? There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a physical state. Being lonely is a state of mind. You can be surrounded by people and feel lonely, or you can be by yourself and feel completely whole. The key is learning to be comfortable in your own company, to find peace in your own presence, to trust in your own worth. When you're tempted to go back, ask yourself this: am I moving towards something or away from something? Are you genuinely drawn to this person, or are you trying to escape the discomfort of growth? Are you choosing them, or are you choosing to? Consider the metaphor of a chapter in a book. When you finish a chapter, you don't keep rereading it, hoping the words will somehow rearrange themselves into a different ending. You turn the page. You move forward into the next chapter, carrying the lessons, but leaving the story where it belongs in the past. The energy of going backward is heavy. It's like swimming against the current, exhausting yourself trying to reach a shore you've already left. Meanwhile, the universe is trying to carry you toward new experiences, new growth, new connections. Every moment you spend looking back is a moment you're not fully present for what's trying to enter your life. Many of us were taught that love means never giving up, that persistence always pays off, that if you love someone enough, everything will work out. These are beautiful sentiments, but they're incomplete truths. Sometimes love means having the courage to let go. But sometimes wisdom means recognizing that not everything that can be fixed should be fixed. The universe has an incredible way of bringing people into our lives exactly when we need them. But it also has perfect timing in taking people out of our lives. When we resist these natural endings, when we try to force continuation where completion is needed, we create suffering for ourselves and others. Think about all the energy it takes to maintain contact with an ex. the emotional preparation before seeing them, the careful monitoring of your words and actions, the aftermath of processing every interaction. Now imagine investing that same energy in your own growth, in creating the life you want, in becoming the person you're meant to be. When you go back to an ex, you're not just risking your heart, you're risking your growth, you're gambling with your future for the sake of a comfortable past. But comfort and growth rarely coexist. Growth requires us to step into the unknown, to embrace uncertainty, to trust that what lies ahead is worth more than what lies behind. When you look back at a relationship, what do you see? Do you see the person you fell in love with, or do you see the person you've become since then? Often, we romanticize the past, forgetting the reasons why we parted ways in the first place. We remember the good times, but we conveniently overlook the pain, the heartache, and the lessons learned. Let's dive deeper into this. Imagine you're holding a beautiful flower in your hand. It's vibrant, full of life, and it brings you joy. But over time, that flower begins to wilt. You can water it, nurture it, and try to bring it back to life, but the truth is it has served its purpose. Holding on to that flower, hoping it will bloom again, only leads to disappointment. Relationships are much the same. Sometimes they flourish and sometimes they... Now, I want you to think about your own life. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you were tempted to go back to something that no longer served you? Maybe it was a job that drained your energy, a friendship that felt one-sided, or yes, a relationship that left you feeling empty. What did you learn from that experience? Did you grow, or did you remain stuck in a cycle of longing for what once was? It's easy to romanticize the past, to believe that if we just tried harder, things would be different. But the truth is, every time we go back, we risk losing sight of who we are becoming, we risk stunning our growth, and we risk missing out on the beautiful opportunities that lie ahead. Let's talk about fear for a moment. Fear is a powerful emotion, isn't it? It can paralyze us, keep us stuck in our comfort zones, and make us cling to what we know, even if it's not good for us. When we think about going back to an ex, fear often plays a significant role. We fear being alone, we fear the unknown, and we fear that we'll never find someone who understands us the way they did. But what if I told you that fear is often a sign that you're on the brink of something incredible? When you feel that fear creeping in, it's an invitation to explore deeper. It's a chance to ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Is it the person? Or is it the idea of being alone? Is it the comfort of familiarity? Or is it the fear of stepping into the unknown? Let's take a moment to consider the power of self-love. When we truly love ourselves, we begin to recognize our worth. We understand that we deserve relationships that uplift us, that challenge us, and that help us grow. Going back to an ex often means settling for less than we deserve. It means choosing comfort over growth. And that's a choice that can have lasting consequences. I want you to think about the last time you felt truly happy. What were you doing? Who were you with? Happiness often comes from being in alignment with our true selves, from pursuing our passions, and from surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us. When we go back to an ex, we risk losing that alignment. We risk stepping back into a version of ourselves that may not be the best fit anymore. Let's explore this idea further. Picture a river flowing freely, carving its way through the landscape. It moves effortlessly, adapting to the terrain, finding new paths, and embracing change. Now imagine trying to force that river to flow backward to return to a place it has already left behind. It would struggle. It would become stagnant, and it would lose its vitality. Our lives are much like that river. We are meant to flow forward, to embrace the changes that come our way, and to trust that the journey ahead holds new experiences and opportunities. When we think about going back to an ex, we often forget that we are not the same people we were when the relationship ended. Time changes us, experiences shape us, and we grow in ways we may not even realize. The person we were with may have also changed, and the dynamics that once existed may no longer be relevant. So why do we cling to the past? Why do we allow nostalgia to cloud our judgment? Let's consider the concept of closure. Many people believe that going back to an ex will provide the closure they seek. But here's the thing, that closure is not something that can be given to us by another person. It's something we must create for ourselves. It comes from within, from understanding our own feelings, from recognizing the lessons learned, and from accepting that some chapters of our lives are meant to end. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you felt the need for closure? Perhaps you replayed conversations in your mind seeking answers that may never come. But what if you shifted that energy inward? What if you took the time to reflect on what you truly need to move forward? Closure is about letting go, and letting go is an act of self-love. It's about honoring your journey and recognizing that you are worthy of a future filled with possibilities. Now let's talk about the importance of setting boundaries. When we go back to an ex, we often blur the lines of what we truly want and need. Boundaries are essential for our emotional well-being. They help us define what is acceptable and what is not. By going back to a relationship that has already ended, and we may inadvertently compromise our boundaries, allowing old patterns to resurface. Think about a time when you set a boundary for yourself. How did it feel? Did it power you? Did it give you a sense of control over your life? Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I deserve better. When we go back to an ex, we may find ourselves compromising those boundaries, and that can lead to feelings of resentment and frustration. Let's also explore the idea of self-discovery. Every relationship teaches us something about ourselves, but the most profound lessons often come from the relationships we choose to leave behind. When we step away from a past relationship, we create space for self-discovery. We have the opportunity to explore our interests, our passions, and our desires without the influence of someone else. Have you ever taken the time to truly discover who you are outside of a relationship? What do you enjoy doing? What makes you feel alive? Self-discovery is a journey that requires courage and vulnerability. It's about peeling back the layers and embracing your authentic self. When we go back to an ex, we risk losing that opportunity for growth and exploration. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for healing, but it's important to understand that forgiveness does not mean going back. It means releasing the hold that the past has on us. It's about letting go of the anger, the hurt, and the resentment that may linger. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the chains of the past, allowing us to move forward with grace and compassion. Have you ever struggled with forgiveness? Perhaps you held on to grudges or replayed past hurts in your mind. But what if you chose to forgive, not for the other person, but for yourself? Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves. It's a way of reclaiming our power and choosing to live in the present moment. I want you to reflect on the idea of self-empowerment. When we choose to let go of the past, we empower ourselves to create the future we desire. We take control of our narrative and become the authors of our own stories. Going back to an ex often means relinquishing that power, allowing someone else to dictate. Think about a time when you felt truly empowered. What choices did you make? How did it feel to take charge of your life? Empowerment comes from within. It's about recognizing that you have the ability to shape your own destiny. When we go back to an ex, we may find ourselves giving away that power, and that can lead to feelings of helplessness and frustration. Let's also consider the role of support systems in our lives. When we choose to move forward, we often find ourselves surrounded by people who uplift and inspire us. These support systems are crucial for our growth and well-being. They remind us of our worth and encourage us to pursue our dreams. When we go back to an ex, we may inadvertently isolate ourselves from those who truly care about us. We might find ourselves retreating into a familiar but unfulfilling space, losing sight of the connections that nourish our souls. Have you ever experienced the warmth of a supportive friend or family member? Their encouragement can be a lifeline during challenging times. They help us see our potential and remind us that we are deserving of love and happiness. When we choose to move forward, we open ourselves up to new relationships and experiences that can enrich our lives in ways we never imagined. Now let's talk about the importance of embracing change. Change is often met with resistance, isn't it? We fear the unknown and we cling to what feels safe. But what if we viewed change as an opportunity for growth? What if we embraced it as a chance to reinvent ourselves? Life is a series of transformations, and each one brings us closer to our true selves. Think about a time when you faced a significant change in your life. How did you navigate it? Did you resist or did you lean into the discomfort? Embracing change requires courage, but it also opens the door to new possibilities. When we go back to an ex, we may be resisting the change that is necessary for our growth. We may be holding on to a version of ourselves that no longer exists. Let's also explore the idea of self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on ourselves, especially when we feel the pull to return to a past relationship. We may question our choices, our worth, and our ability to find love again. But self-compassion is about treating ourselves with kindness and understanding. It's about recognizing that we are human and we all make mistakes. Have you ever practiced self-compassion? How did it feel to extend grace to yourself? When we choose to be compassionate towards ourselves, we create a safe space for healing and growth. We learn to forgive ourselves for past decisions and to embrace the lessons they brought. Going back to an ex often means denying ourselves that compassion, as we may fall into the trap of self-blame and regret. Let's reflect on the power of intention. When we set clear intentions for our lives, we create a roadmap for our journey. Intentions guide our choices and help us stay aligned with our values. When we go back to an ex, we may lose sight of our intentions, allowing old patterns to dictate our decisions. Think about a time when you set an intention for yourself. How did it shape your actions? Did it help you stay focused on your goals? Intentions are powerful tools for manifestation. They remind us of what we truly desire and help us navigate the complexities of life. By choosing to move forward, we honor our intentions and create space for new opportunities. Consider the importance of gratitude. Gratitude shifts our perspective and allows us to appreciate the present moment. When we focus on what we are grateful for, we cultivate a sense of abundance in our lives. Going back to an ex often means dwelling on what we've lost rather than celebrating what we have. Have you ever taken the time to reflect on the things you're grateful for? How did it change your outlook? Gratitude is a powerful practice that can transform our mindset. It reminds us that even in difficult times, there is always something to be thankful for. By choosing to move forward, we open ourselves up to new experiences that can fill our lives with joy and gratitude. Life is full of challenges, and resilience is what allows us to bounce back from adversity. When we face heartbreak or disappointment, it can be tempting to retreat to what is familiar, but resilience encourages us to rise above our circumstances and to keep moving forward. Think about a time when you demonstrated resilience. How did you overcome obstacles? What did you learn about yourself in the process? Resilience is a testament to our strength and determination. When we choose to let go of the past, we cultivate resilience and empower ourselves to face whatever comes our way. I want you to reflect on the idea of living authentically. Authenticity is about being true to ourselves, embracing our uniqueness, and honoring our values. When we go back to an ex, we may find ourselves compromising our authenticity, trying to fit into a mold that no longer serves us. Have you ever felt the freedom of living authentically? How did it feel to embrace your true self? Living authentically allows us to attract the right people and experiences into our lives. It empowers us to make choices that align with our values and by choosing to move forward. We honor our authenticity and create a life that reflects who we truly are. It's essential to remember that going back to an ex often means stepping back into a cycle that no longer serves us. It's a choice that can hinder our growth, cloud our judgment, and keep us from embracing the beautiful possibilities that lie ahead. Each moment we spend longing for the past is a moment we could be investing in our future. Let's take a moment to acknowledge the power of choice. Every day we are faced with choices that shape our lives. We can choose to hold on to what is familiar, or we can choose to step into the unknown with courage and hope. The choice to move forward is not always easy, but it is often the most rewarding. It requires us to trust ourselves, to believe in our worth, and to embrace the journey of self-discovery. Remember that they are stepping stones on our path to becoming our best selves. Each experience, whether joyful or painful, contributes to our growth. They teach us resilience, self-love, and the importance of setting boundaries. They remind us that we are worthy of love that uplifts us and encourages us to be our true selves. What have you learned from your past relationships? How have they shaped the person you are today? Embrace those lessons, honor your growth, and recognize that you have the power to create a future that aligns with your true desires. Let's set our sights on the future and embrace the opportunities that await us. Let's surround ourselves with people who inspire us, who challenge us, and who celebrate our authenticity. Let's choose to let go of what no longer serves us and to step boldly into the life we deserve.